A couple months ago, I reached out to the company FriiDesign, who make the TriLens, which is the device right here, and I made a couple of videos about that already. You can check those out up here. Basically, this is a device with which you can carry up to 3 lenses directly on your belt, so you have those ready and available at all times. Now, I really like this piece of gear because it gives me an opportunity to have multiple lenses with different kinds of reach right here on my belt without having to carry a backpack or have the backpack open at all times. This gives me much more flexibility whilst shooting. Now, however, they came up with a new design for a new piece of also photography and videography related tech, and that is the Conda Strap right here. Now, what is kind of obvious based on the name as well as what you can see here on the screen, this is a strap with which you can actually hang the camera off your neck, off to your side, and it has these little plastic pieces up here which actually make this a possibility to use also as somewhat of a tripod. Now, before we jump in, a quick disclaimer. FriiDesign has sent these Conda straps out to me to test and make a video about. However, they have no input on the video, they've not seen the video before it goes live, and besides getting to keep these straps, I was not paid in any other way. Now continue with the content. Now, as you can see, there are 2 different versions. We have the Conda Strap, the standard version, and then we also have the Conda Strap Plus, which is for heavier cameras and comes with more stability. First up, let's talk about the functionality of this and what you can do with it, what is up with these plastic links right here, and of course also how you can actually make adjustments to this. Now, looking at this, you basically have a screw for the tripod mount on the bottom of the camera with rubber right here so that it doesn't twist and turn on the bottom of your camera. Then you, with that, also have a lever right here, and we'll talk about that later on. From there, we can go down one of the sides, and there you can see we have these plastic pieces which are kind of like a snake, I guess, and that's probably what the name comes from, which then lead into this kind of fabric-y portion. Then we have a padded area right here, which is the area that will go onto your neck. And then, of course, it goes all around. Something that's quite neat is that you actually have the option to pick this apart by pushing these buttons right there. And then you can take this off. And this way, it is actually possible to basically have your camera mounted on the side still, and then wrap this around something so that you can actually position your camera in that way, for example, wrapped around a tree branch or something similar. And then, of course, we can also push this back together, and there we go. Now, let's put a camera on here, and I want to demonstrate you how this works exactly and what the different use cases are, how you can use this. Now, I have 2 cameras with which I can demonstrate this. This here is the Sony Alpha 6400, and then we have my trusty Canon EOS R, in this case with the 15 to 35mm lens. I chose these 2 cameras because, of course, one, these are the cameras that are available to me. The Sony Alpha 6400 is the camera my girlfriend uses for her video shooting as well as live classes. And then, of course, I use the Canon EOS R at the moment, still waiting for the R5C. Those apparently have shipping issues or technical issues with the release. So I still have to wait for that, but this is the combination that I usually use when I go out and about. Now, the 15 to 35 is, of course, a lens that is on the heavier side, and this will have something to do with the usability of the Conda Strap in this type of setup. But if you have something that is lighter than that, for example, the 16mm of the RF lineup, that, of course, would be a much, much lighter choice. And I think the 14 to 35mm is also a lighter one. However, I love the 2.8 aperture on this, so I really enjoy this lens, and it's pretty much my go-to for almost everything, especially when I go outdoors and don't want to have like the 70 to 200 or something around. Now, I want to mount the lighter camera first for the demonstrations that I want to make here, and of course, for that, I have to take off the bottom plate right here. And that is a Arca Swiss plate. In this case, it's by Peak Design. And as you might know, I really like my Arca Swiss style plates because I have these tripod mounts everywhere. And this is of course already one small-ish downside of the Conda Strap, which is that I have to take off my Arcos with plate because I really like having those always on and they never leave my camera, because that way I also pretty much know that they are on there really, really tight. They are actually mounted in a way that I don't even have a way to unscrew this without a tool. Now, a coin is good enough for that, but generally speaking, as I mentioned, for me personally, I love these so much so that I don't really want to take them off. Now, of course, when you use a Conda strap, that's not an option. You can probably get a plate that you could screw in here. However, I'm not sure how much I would trust that kind of a setup. So I, in this case, would actually choose to mount the Conda strap directly to the camera. You can see we have the mounting position there, and then you can put the Conda strap on with the screw and you can just tighten that down with your fingers. And for a lighter camera like this, it's probably actually going to be enough just by tightening it with your fingers. But again, you can of course also use a screwdriver or a coin to make sure that it is tightly fitted there and that the camera is not going to fall off. And now with the camera mounted, what we can already do is, for one, put it around our neck. Now, of course, this way the camera is maybe too low. And there is a big point for the adjustability of this strap, because you can just simply push this side into the strap, basically. And I'm gonna do this like so. And then you push up this little piece right there, this plastic ring, and we already have one side much, much shorter. And then we can do the same thing, lighten the strap on one side and push into the snake part. And now the strap is much, much shorter, and this way it is also potentially easier to carry your camera. Now with this, of course, I can take my photos like so. I can of course also carry the camera just like I would normally on a side carry with a strap like this. But now the magic is when you take this off, you have these plastic pieces. You can adjust these however you want them. And then when you are kind of happy with the positioning, for example, you want to do a selfie or a vlog style segment, you actually have this lever in the back that you can pull and all the way close it. And now this is basically a tripod and I can talk into the camera like so. And I have a nifty little tripod in my hand, which is also a strap. And that is probably the whole selling point of the Conda strap, that you have a tripod with you at all times, but you also have a way of carrying your camera around your neck without needing both of those individually. Now, I personally use the FriiDesign clip most of the time, so I pretty much never use a strap or at least not the original one that came with the camera. And this is something that I wasn't really used to. However, I tried this out going out to the lake, for example, and doing a vlog style video like this. And it was really nice to be able to use this way and not have an additional piece dangling around anywhere. This gave me the opportunity to actually have my camera around and be able to have more reach, because this way, of course, you have the camera further away, which gives you a little bit more reach. And if you don't have that much of a wide angle lens, it gives you an opportunity to get more into the frame. So that's a really nice aspect of this. The other thing is also that we can untighten this again. And this time I'm just going to go halfway, so the lever is pointing outward like this. Then I can basically bend this to my will and then position it however I want. For example, if I want to make this a mini tripod, I can put it like so, and then push it close again, and now it is fixed again. And you have to be kind of careful in terms of like how you push things into position. But generally speaking, after a little bit of fiddling, you can probably find a position which would work for you. Now, I'm having a hard time here, and this is going to go like so, and let's see if it's now holding. And there we go. Now we have a positioning of the camera in a way that is holding. And now I can actually put this, in this case, on a table, maybe into the grass or something like that. And you would have your camera set up and you don't have to hold it in your hands at all. Now, this situation here is something that is prone to issues. Many of us have used or at least know the GorillaPod, which was extremely popular with vloggers for an extended period of time. But overall, I've seen so many people crash their cameras because of the GorillaPod failing in some kind of a way, because, for example, the bend changed or it wasn't quite as stable. And I can see similar things happening here if you are not careful. Now, the way that I have this set up right now, it is pretty secure. Like you can see if I wiggle this, the camera is not going anywhere and it's also not easily tipping over with this small setup. But if you are using a bigger setup, potentially including some lights or potentially having a microphone setup on top of here, you of course have to kind of be careful with the distribution of the weight right there. But the cool thing, again, is that it is a strap and a tripod in the same thing, and that might be worth it to you. Now, we can, of course, again, pull this over to the other side. Now it's completely flexible again, and now I can just carry the camera and put it around my neck, and it is easy as that. It's really cool how they thought about these kind of things and what this could do, and this completely new way of combining tripod and the carrying of your camera. Now let's jump over to the big boy of the two, and that is this right here. And as you can see, it is significantly thicker. Now, if I put these side by side right here, and you can see on the screen, I don't know, maybe the smaller one is 1 to 1.5 centimeters in diameter. Now here we are talking about at least 2, maybe 2.5 or something like that. So it's significantly bigger, but based on the information they have on their website, it is also significantly stronger. And this is specifically true for this part right here, which is underneath your camera. And by doing that and having this significantly stronger, they also say that the tension that you can push here is much greater, so the stability is also given for those bigger cameras. Now let's mount this onto my EOS R. And I don't know exactly which direction is the right one, whether you're supposed to mount it like this or like that. I have done it in both directions and it can be quite helpful either way, but this time around, let's put it like this and have the lever pointing toward the lens. And yeah, this sounds about right because the rubbery piece is actually now below the camera to 100%. And again, I'll use my trusty little coin right there to just tighten this down a little more so that it does not go anywhere. And with that, this is now fixed. And keep in mind, we are talking about I think it's like 700 or 800 grams in lens, 560 or 600 grams in camera, battery, and SD card and stuff. So this is a pretty heavy setup. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you are setting this up and using heavier setups with this type of design. Now again, we can shorten the length here, and we can do that by pushing in this ring right there and then pulling this in so that it goes all the way and pushing the ring back up. And while we are at this here, I can also show you that both of these have a mechanism to actually tighten the strengthening inside of here. So the rope strengthening mechanism. So you can actually change the tightness of the Conda strap on the different stages, or better yet, the maximum tightness. And this is important because, for one, you could want it tighter for your setup, but the other reason is also that over time you might have to tighten this down so that it is continuing to stay strong and incredibly stiff for your use case and for your camera setup. Now let's push this in again so that it is not as long in terms of the string right here. And now again, I can just put this around and have my camera as a side strap, for example, and I can carry it this way, have it with me at all times and use that. The strap up here has a nice padding at the top so that it is not going to kind of shave or stuff like that. And the material that they used for the webbing part right here is interesting. It feels completely different from many things that I've tried over the past. It does not have sharp edges. That's really cool, but it's also not necessarily the softest in the world. It's a kind of like a polyester type material or something like that, but it's supposed to be really, really strong. And I guess that's the most important part of this, because it should hold your camera and not have it fall down. And now, of course, we can do the same thing right here. Let's say I want to do like a vlog segment or something like that with more reach. And as you can see, now I already have it in my hand in this kind of like vlog type position. And so now I can actually pull the lever to the halfway position and then make my adjustments so that it is going to be in the positioning that I want. It is kind of holding there already. And now when it is ready and I want to just tighten it down, then I can pull it all the way over to the completely closed position. And now I can use the camera, and of course I can still make certain adjustments, but now I can use this camera, and of course with a up to 15mm frame. And let's see what kind of settings I have here. Full frame so that it is no crop. And now I can also record on this camera, and as you can see, now I did not have enough strength on the tightness of this grip. So if I adjust this still, I can see that it is bending over. And for that, now I will have to do a bit of a tightness adjustment. And for that, I will go over here, push this all the way out there. And now I can twist this a little bit and turn like so, and close this back out, down. Do the same thing, a little bit on the other side, twist a little bit, turn it back down, and put this over so that it's protected and not changing much. And let's try this one more time. And we have this already halfway. This feels a little stiffer now. And now I have it in the position I want. And with that, I can close it all the way. And now I have this ready to go. And it is much stronger than it was before. However, the problem kind of stays the same. With this type of strap, it is not really made for heavy cameras like this kind of setup that I have right here, and especially if you have a heavy lens. I don't think that the camera itself is that much of a problem with its 600 grams or so, but I think that the lens in this case is probably more so. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It does, as you can see right here, and I can pass it between my hands. I do have more reach, as I can demonstrate right here, but it is a little bit more problematic, or at least something that you have to worry about a little bit more. Now, of course, I can do the same thing that I did with the previous setup, and I can change this and I can position this in a different way for example, using this as somewhat of a tripod. And now, as you can see, let's hit record right there. I have a tripod with me at all times, depending on how you set this up. And now I can talk into this camera without having to kind of like hold it in my hands. And of course, also, it has the same functionality that the other one has in terms of being able to disconnect these pieces so that you can actually also wrap this around something and use that way. And this looks like this. And now I have these two pieces disconnected, and I can wrap this around something, hang the camera from somewhere. And of course, you still have the option to also tighten it down so that when you have it wrapped around a pole or something similar, that you can have that stiffness of the Conda strap. And then you can push this back together and it's secure again. Now, what's my verdict on the Conda Strap Plus and the Conda Strap, the standard edition? Now, first up, please keep in mind that I usually don't use straps that often, mostly because I prefer using the capture clip, have that on my belt or backpack, have the cameras there, and then when I want to use the camera, there's nothing dangling off the camera. And that, of course, is different when you use a strap like this. However, I really like and enjoy the innovation that FriiDesign went through with this, because it gives the strap an extra feature, which you would usually have to carry something extra for. And in that department, I think that this is really genius. Specifically, if you are, for example, doing travel style videos or vlogs, or you want to have the opportunity to carry your camera with you at all times and also have somewhat of a tripod situation ready to go, then this is a great combination. Because that is exactly something that I usually struggle with. I do want to bring a tripod, but then I have a bag that, for example, doesn't have any placement for tripods. And all of a sudden, I'm either carrying the tripod in my hand or I have to bring my big backpack to also be able to bring a tripod of any kind, of any size. This kind of alleviates that problem because I have the tripod built into the strap. Now, a couple of things that I don't necessarily love are these pieces right here. Now, when you are kind of like closing it down to make it relatively short in terms of the length right here, but you can grip these pieces when they are closed down on the part that is kind of like fabric-y right here, then it's not that bad. But overall, these pieces here, they can kind of like push or squeeze your skin into between the different elements when you are making those adjustments, those type of things. So that's not necessarily ideal, I think, and could potentially be improved. And of course, you also have to consider what kind of camera and lens combination you want to use with this, because the weight is dictating how useful this will be to you, how stiff you can make this so that it is going to not fall over, not bend over. And especially if you want to set it up as a tripod and you want to walk away from the setup, then you really have to trust this and ideally probably test it beforehand before you go out to shoot and leave the camera like that and just see how it actually performs with your setup, with the weights you put on there and how you position things. Other than that, as I've already mentioned, I think it's great innovation by FriiDesign. And I would say, if you are interested in this, if this is a style that suits you and you want to have some kind of a tripod with you wherever you go whilst being able to carry your camera, then this strap could be really, really interesting for you. Now, those are my thoughts about the FriiDesign Conda Strap and Conda Strap Plus. If you want to check those out, you can of course find links to those in the description down below. And with all that said, I hope you have an amazing day, make it your life, go out more with your camera, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.